Because the truth of the matter is, for most of us in this room, one of our greatest challenges this year has been a lack of access. You had dreams, you had goals, you had ambitions, you had aspirations, you had vision from God, you had a thrust, an assignment, a passion, something you wanted to do, whether outreach, whether evangelism, some type of ministry you wanted to facilitate, but you did not have access to the resources, access to the funds, access to the assets that you needed. God is going to give you access. He is going to allow doors to open. And for just three of you that get excited in this season, much like he did Peter when he brought Peter out of jail, when God brings you out of 2020, the doors that he opened will open on their own accord. Now, you're not going to understand that until you take another trip to Walmart. And when you go to Walmart, you will understand as you are walking up to the door, you don't have to turn a knob, you don't have to grab a handle, because there is a sensor above the door. And when the sensor senses that you are close, the door automatically opens. And can I tell you that the only thing that God is waiting on in this next season is for you to show up? There is a blessing, there is a glory that is waiting on you to arrive. And if you can just make it when the blessing senses that you are close, then you will notice that it will open on its own accord. I promise I'm not going to keep you long at all, but can you just look at somebody for the very first time tonight and simply tell your neighbor, all God wants you to do is make it. All he wants you to do is make it. Some of you are gonna have to make it with tears in your eyes, but you gotta make it. Some of you are gonna have to make it with heartbreak, but you're gonna have to make it. Some of us are gonna make it on broken pieces of the ship, but however we make it, can you just wave at somebody and tell your neighbor, I'm determined to make it. It is possible. I know that you may have been waiting to go back to school, but it is possible. I know that you have been contemplating should you attempt to pursue that particular career, but it is possible. It is possible for you, in spite of all that you have done, I's undotted and T's uncrossed, for you to still yield to what God wants to do. It is possible. The only reason why some of you are bitter with 2020 is because your perception of the year has been twisted. But if you really take a moment and take a retrospective look over your life, you will see that what God was doing for the church, those of us who were in Goshen, the land in the midst of Egypt, if you take a retrospective look over this year, you will say the truth of the matter is the whole year God has been setting us up for one of the greatest revivals that would have ever swept across this land. I need you to scream at your neighbor and tell your neighbor, I gotta change my perspective. I gotta change my perception. The truth of the matter is this year I prayed more this year than I prayed in a long time. I fasted more this year than I fasted in a long time. God was using this year to set you up and to bring you closer. Scream at one more person and tell them, I gotta change my perception. I gotta